Welcome to Filling You In, a dental podcast with A Squared, where dentist entrepreneurs and spouses, Dr. Anushka Gaglani and Dr. Abhishek Nagaraj, welcome industry experts and innovators to explore trends in business practices, patient care, career development, and what it takes to be successful in dentistry.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Filling You In. I'm Dr. Abhishek Nagaraj.
And I'm Dr. Anushka Gaglani, collectively known as A Squared. As we've learned from our previous guests, the pace of change in the dental field seems to be accelerating all the time, with practices and DSOs striving to keep up. Much of this change comes with legal implications, and we're going to devote our show today to understanding how to adjust legal strategy with regard to what's new with partnerships, compliance, and the governance of artificial intelligence.
Our expert guide is Jena Taft, Senior Counsel in the Dental Service Organizations Industry Group and Commercial Litigation Practice Group at Dykema, a leading national law firm. Jena brings extensive experience as an in-house counsel to DSOs and other healthcare organizations of all sizes to her clients as she assists them with healthcare regulatory work, compliance, corporate law, and risk management for operations and executive teams. Jena, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
So before we dive into the advice you have for our listeners, we'd like to first hear a little bit about your background and how you ended up working in the healthcare space, particularly dental.
Yeah, so interesting. When I was in college and law school, I got this idea that I wanted to defend doctors. I literally thought, doctors protect us, and so who's protecting them? And I'll skip a couple steps, but I worked in-house at a clinical research organization, and then I went in-house at a hospital. So I was in-house counsel at a hospital system, and I really loved it. I was legal counsel to the medical group there. We had hundreds of doctors of all different kinds. And so when I got the opportunity to work for a DSO, a general support organization, I thought to myself, well, this should be easy, right? Just dentists. I don't have neurosurgeons, cardiologists. And I thought, hey, don't dentists get off at like lunch on Fridays? And I thought the regulations would be a lot less stringent. I thought it would be easier to work around. Obviously, what I didn't know is that the dental landscape is multifaceted, complex. It changes faster than other types of healthcare in a lot of ways. And so once I started working with dentists, I've never looked back. I worked at a very large DSO that was in 40 some states. I worked at a DSO, I was general counsel of one that was kind of turning around and right sizing. And then before Brian picked me up at Dykema, I was at a DSO that was like a startup and growing and doing all these acquisitions. So I've kind of like seen it from every angle. And now I've got a ton of different clients. So I really can like kind of keep my hand on the pulse of what's going on.
That's fascinating. Looks like the breadth of experience you've gotten so far is pretty fascinating, and we'd love to dive in. I'll turn it over to Anushka. I know she's itching to ask you our next question.
So Jena, how would you characterize the current pace of change in the dental field compared to what you've seen in previous years?
Well, if you think about it, like just big picture, over the past like few decades, you had the Affordable Care Act. Like that's one of the big pieces of regulation, that came in. And then really it was the next big story after that, if you think in really broad strokes, is the market, right? The market really picked up and there were these large dental acquisitions. And so things were moving really quickly with that. What we are seeing now at unprecedented levels, I would say, is the technology that's being used and developed. And on the backdrop of all of this is really regulations. But you can see where the technology one is the most difficult to keep up with right now. So I'd say it's moving even faster than it ever has before.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. We've had a lot of questions about that too. One of the things that was brought up in one of the kind of learning environments we're in is someone suggested put all of your thoughts into AI, and then that way, your team can reach out to the AI. And we're sitting here thinking, Abhishek and I discussed this. We're like, But if all of your thoughts are in AI and everybody can access them, what are the implications of that? And I know we had a little bit of a conversation about that too.
Absolutely. How do you, where do you, how do you draw those guardrails, and how do you, there's so many more nuanced questions to it. But before we dive into that, what do you think is the most pressing legal issue that practices and DSOs should focus their attention on right now?
Okay, I have a very confident, direct answer for this. You have got to get your house in order. You have got to get your house in order, and maybe that means something different to different people. We should Google it and see what the Google says it means. But you need to make sure that what you're already doing is being done correctly. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, a lot of people aren't growing right now because of market conditions, or maybe they have some external factors going on. Maybe they're not in a region that's growing. But the most important thing you can do right now is look internally at what you've already got and see how you can update it, fine tune it, make sure you've got a good compliance plan and a good structure, and know that
Mhm.
these important agreements that you may already have are, they don't have to stay the same. An agreement you had in 2010 is not going to take you into the next 5 or 10 years.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Okay. Can you give us a little more kind of example? Can you dive a little deeper into what that would mean?
Yeah, so for example, with the AI technology that's coming out, we've never thought of some of these problems, right?
Right.
So I just got asked by a client to look at their third party monitoring of their calls, right? And they're like, hey, we've never thought about um, AI being used to monitor the calls, and what extra problems does that bring us? Well, we've never in your agreement with your vendors or on your recorded line, you've probably never thought to say, AI may be recording this call, contemporaneously, and they're going to safeguard any PHI. They're going to make sure that it's confidential. And so we've got these new vendors are using AI at, I feel like every day you hear about another vendor who's now using AI in their products. And so you really need to go back to your agreements you have with them and make sure it's clear on what they can use it for. Um, you hear the word like large language model and these, what's training AI. So you don't want them to be training themselves off of your material, right? You don't want them to be training
Mhm.
themselves off of your patient's information. So that's just one big example I'd say about something you'd want to go back and check.
That's really interesting. So one of the things we're about to pilot a AI voice agent. So what I'm hearing from you is making sure that we actually clearly display to patients calling us that this call is being recorded, right? Because that's a pretty big deal. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, yes, and a lot of people have these disclaimers, but the way some of the AI is working now, they're doing it in real time. It's not just like,
Mhm.
oh, we're going to listen to the recording later. Um,
Mm.
so we really got to see how it works, and you really can put it on the vendor because they're doing this, like, this is their piece of equipment.
Product, right?
One thing to make you feel better, and this might kind of jump to some of your next question, but the FDA is currently like the main regulator in this space. So just like the FDA regulates medical devices, they're going to regulate medical devices that use AI. Um,
Mm.
so that's comforting in a way, right? Because the FDA is a known quantity. They somewhat understand the space, and so um, a lot of these things are going to be checked with the FDA, and other regulations are going to start coming up too.
Understood.
Yeah, that's good to know, honestly. Um, so speaking of AI, the governance of artificial intelligence is a very hot topic right now in all industries. I know you went a little bit into it, but what is the current situation in dentistry and what other adjustments should dental organizations be making?
Yeah, so I mentioned the FDA, but then right now it's states can make their own regulations. And so you're already seeing, some states that are passing bills and laws that protect consumers, right? And so and some of those include patients as well. They include healthcare. Um, there's not one overlay federal law right now about AI regulation, right? That may come. It's going to be a patchwork. So if you're operating in several different states, you're going to have to keep up with that. You're going to have to stay on top of that. But the good news is, a lot of this is going to be familiar to you. The top things that I would be worried about is one, is this safe for our patients, right? Which is like your number one concern anyway. Does this comply with the same healthcare laws that you already know about? HIPAA, privacy, security, right? And if you fold this in to your normal compliance plans, that is going to go very far. You're going to see a lot of the language you're used to seeing and hearing from lawyers too, like reasonable care, standard of care, duty of care. So as long as you keep that at the forefront, your patient safety, your current compliance, and your duty of care to patients, I think those are the main three things you want to keep on the top of mind.
Got it. Shifting gears a little bit here, from a risk management perspective, what should leaders of organizations be concerned about with regard to AI?
Yeah, so
Or not concerned about?
Oh, well, listen, just like everything else that a lawyer tells you, you have to document this stuff. Like if you don't document your process that you're using, you have no way to prove that you checked things. Okay. So document it. And then the second big thing I'll say about that is you can't just document it, because just doing a disclaimer is not going to be enough. Like you have to actually act in the way that you say you're going to act, right? So courts will look at like what's actually happening over what you said was going to happen. So you got to say you're going to do it, then you got to actually do it. Unfortunately, the technology is changing so fast that it can be difficult to keep up with. But if you do all the same compliance things that you already do with your vendors and your technology, that will be great. The one other disclaimer I would say to answer your question directly, what I'm seeing so far is that mistakes with AI are not going to be as forgivable, right? Because it's like you took a shortcut, and that's what consumers in courts may think, like, you took a shortcut by using AI and you didn't put in the proper safeguards. So I would say it's a little less forgivable, right? Than just like, sorry, we were doing all the right things and we missed this one thing that was missable. Well, now it's like you got someone else to do it for you, right? And you didn't check. So it's going to be a big human in the loop. You've got to keep a clinician in the loop and have them check all of the things that you use AI for.
Got it.
Right on.
So much to think about. My goodness.
Anushka, we were talking about this. We had Santosh Patel on our podcast maybe like a couple episodes ago. And one of the things he said that that made us think a lot was he said something along the lines of if doctors are using AI or not using like Overjet or one of these tools, patients can request that x-rays and actually go upload it in ChatGPT and say, hey, tell me all the things that the dentist missed. And now this takes malpractice to a whole nother level. So our input or our insight into this is insurances, malpractice carriers might actually make it mandatory to use AI in our x-rays. Otherwise, the premium's going to be extremely high, right? Because it takes the risk to another level. It's something that we thought was fascinating. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, it's kind of like you're flipping the script, right? You're saying like, are we not doing our due diligence by not using the best tools available? I think luckily for you, there are going to be some really sophisticated vendors out there, and there already are, who have gotten their products FDA approved. And so you're going to have to get those good vendors and do your due diligence and make sure the agreement says what it needs to say. And I do think you'll be able to. I mean, I am of the camp that AI is not going to take over, but it is going to take over businesses that don't utilize it, right?
Right.
Like you'll get left behind. So I think you're totally right about that.
Yeah, completely agree. I think, the reality is it's going to be standard of care, and AI is the future. You're absolutely right. So, Jenna, let's shift right now to what's happening with partnerships. That's an area that's seen a lot of change in recent years. What do you see as the most significant legal implications of newer partnership arrangements?
So, we now have been I say we, lawyers at Dykema, Brian Kaleo, have been in this space and have been working these agreements for decades, right? But the one
Right.
thing that it grows more true every day, every year, is you're only as good as your relationship with your partners, right? So that's one reason why I really enjoy following you guys, and I think what you guys do is so unique, is because you really have a focus on your partners and your employees and everybody who works with your platform, because there's no way to draft a partnership that is like ironclad. Um,
Mhm.
I think that the biggest thing I'm seeing is that a lot of leeway is going to be given and is being given to committed partners, right? So, and here I'll just give you a short story of why. When the market was kicking real and really moving and money was cheap, right? Partners were starting to rely on these like capital events, and that they'd like invest, and then in 3 years or 5 years they would get their money back times eight, or whatever it was. Well,
Right.
we now know that the market's not going to just keep churning at the same rate it was, right? It could be 10 years. I mean, and it's not smart to sell or have a capital event when the market's down, right? So you've really got to find partners who are more committed to the mission and the platform than they are to a capital event in 3 years, right? Because that's not going to work all the time. So that's the two main things I'm seeing, which is that you're only as good as your partnerships with your dentist, and like your relationships with them, your actual relationship with them, and a lot of leeway being given to these partners who are going to stay for the long term.
So those are very insightful words. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and one of our mentors also uses the phrase, the only ship that sails is a partnership, right? But on the other side of that is, failed partnerships, right? So it's just being really selective and on who you partner with, I think plays a pretty big role too. Um, Jenna, what are you seeing are some key current compliant issues that your clients actually hit you with or need guidance on?
Yeah, so it's a lot of what we were talking about, right? It's a lot of what we're talking about, and then data privacy specifically.
Okay.
Is just another just like huge area, and thankfully, we've got. It used to be that you could kind of keep up with data privacy regulations, but it really takes experts now to keep up with these, and thankfully we have some of those at Dykema, but especially if you operate internationally too. I mean, the data privacy regulations are just they're just onerous at first until you get a hold of them, right? And then, California, of course, leads the country in a lot of ways with a lot of their privacy and consumer protection laws. So, it for a little bit, you're like, okay, if I can keep up with California, I'm probably good everywhere else. But it's becoming very prevalent, a lot of this data privacy security regulations, and so clients are constantly asking about that. And I'll do you one better too. I'm big on insurance. So if your platform doesn't have a good corporate insurance program, like including cybersecurity, that's like a huge risk area that I like to address with clients and platforms to make sure you're covered. I mean, people don't think about all of this. If they don't have a dedicated insurance person, how do you, or a corporate person working on this, how do you remember to add every single piece of property? And it can be a lot, right? But it's super important because they'll, carriers
Right.
have a lot of exclusions, right? So that is one area that's changing, the things that they can exclude coverage for. And that's something that that people really need to take a look at and keep up with as well.
Yeah. It's a good world we live in, but also a scary one.
It is.
So, Jenna, how can practices and other organizations in the dental field work the changes we've been discussing into their existing frameworks?
Well, if you guys, this is like probably one of the least fun things to talk about, but I love it. There the OIG has very good guidance on what a compliance program is supposed to look like and like the 7 elements of one. And so the first and foremost thing is checking your compliance plan and folding new technology and AI use like into the safeguards that you've already got, and doing things like auditing and monitoring. So like you think of AI and people will say, oh, well, you need to check the data, right? Well, if you think about it, that's the same thing you've been doing with billing and coding audits. And it's very similar. Like set a standard and train people on how to do it. Like have the standard, train people how to do it, and then check it.
Mhm.
Another, I think, pro move with some of this AI, and I haven't checked this with any vendors, but I believe in pilot programs, right? Like pilot this stuff before you commit. And that's another thing. I work on a lot of commercial transactions, vendor agreements for clients, and you do not want to get stuck in something. You don't want to get stuck paying for something that you don't want. And so make sure you can get out of these contracts without paying an arm and a leg. Especially guys, as this technology keeps growing, because it's going to be the next best thing all the time. So you don't want to get locked in to one product or one vendor for a really long time, because you just don't know what's around the corner. Like, and they're going to start tailoring these products. Like we're not so far from very tailored products. So it is scary because it's changing so fast and it's such an unknown, but you've really got to review what you have and check it. Like if you've ever seen someone's compliance policy or like a policy and procedure, a lot of times it'll say at the bottom, last reviewed March 2022, recommend we review in 3 years or 2 years. I would say we're down to annually now, like with a lot of the compliance policies and procedures that have to do with technology, at least checking them annually.
That is some very smart advice. You seem to know a lot about this, Jena. So thanks for kind of being an expert in this. I think we need guidance as a whole, as an industry, in all of these changes that are happening. And it's, we're thankful to people like you that are on the side of the doctors and want to make sure we're compliant.
I want to put a plug in really quick for just podcasts in general. So one way that I stay on top of like a lot of these AI governance and products, and just like it's a lot to keep up with. There's a lot of products out there. It is podcasts, and I have several, including you guys that I have, and who has time to listen to these? So I use a product called Concise Cast, where you can put in like 5 or 10 podcasts, and it'll send you a summary, or it'll send you a Concise Cast short summary episode that like pulls out the main points from like 5 or 10 different podcasts. So anyway, it's a great way to stay up on industry, as you guys probably know, and you probably listen to some other podcasts in the industry, and it's going to be really important that everyone stays on top of the AI advancements and the regulations that are coming with them.
Sounds like a great tool. We'll definitely check that out.
Correct. Yeah.
So Jena, we're going to do a quick lightning round.
Perfect.
You ready?
Love lightning.
All right. What was your last impulse buy?
It was a really expensive visor. Like I decided this summer that I'm not a hat girl, I'm a visor girl. So a friend sent me a link to like this giant like $100 visor. So I own that now.
Worth every penny, I'm sure.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to do what the hard ones,
You gotta have a spot for your hair,
Yeah, it gets too hot. Trust me, I get you. What are the least likely 3 words someone would use to describe you?
Okay, how about introvert, selfish, and scared?
I can completely agree with those, especially that first one. I think the first time I met you, we were sitting together at a Dykema breakfast, and we just like hit it off right away. Yeah, I remember that.
I get my energy. I'm a true extrovert in that way, that I get my energy from others, and so luckily, I found my way in this profession to be able to talk to just like really great people basically all day. So
that's
wonderful.
awesome.
Great.
Last one. What is your go-to karaoke song?
I hope everyone hears this in their head when I say it, but Journey, Don't Stop Believing.
A classic.
You know, you can kind of yell instead of sing. First of all, it's great. And everybody else starts yelling too. So this is kind of like my get out of jail free card on karaoke singing.
It's like cathartic. Yeah, that's amazing.
That's great.
Good
Great.
choice.
So, Jena, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
Yes, y'all too. I mean, have fun out there in the wild, wild west of the. If you weren't a believer, AI advancements are coming faster than most people think. So anyway, you heard it here again for the 5th or 10th time.
No, it's been a pleasure. I'm Dr. Abhishek Nagaraj.
And I'm Dr. Anushka Guglani. Thanks for checking out today's show, and we hope you can join us again next time.
Thanks for watching this episode of Filling You In, where we uncover the insights, trends, and stories shaping the dental industry. If you like this podcast, please share it on your social channels and visit Aereo Dental Group on LinkedIn or on Instagram @Aereo Dental Group. You can also subscribe to the series and check out all of our episodes on this YouTube channel or at aerodental.com/podcast. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and let's keep elevating the dental field together.